Pfizer is the first vaccine maker to be granted an emergency use authorization in the Philippines, while Sinovac's EUA application is now up for evaluation.
This EUA cannot be used as an authorization to market the vaccine commercially.
Wala kaming pakialam kung ano ang pipiliin ninyo. That's one thing. Hindi kami makialam sa lahat ng bagay in the purchase. Hindi kulang ang Chinese. Hindi sila nagkulang sa otak. Bright itong in-check.
The government promises to intensify what it calls genomic biosurveillance of incoming passengers after its detection of the new COVID-19 variant from the United Kingdom. And while it decides on whether to lift the travel restrictions that will remain only until tomorrow, local government units continue to secure vaccines on their own.
Testing for COVID-19 also continues among Filipinos as the Philippine Red Cross proposed the use of saliva testing that is cheaper and more convenient. But how effective is the government's tracking of new COVID-19 variants while it still struggles to acquire vaccines? We discuss in this episode of The Chiefs.
And welcome to this Thursday edition of The Chiefs. And of course, with us on set is Robbie Lampay of One News, and also with us are Ana Marie Pamintuan of the Philippine Star and Luchi Cruz Valdez, the head of News 5. Ladies and gentlemen, well, we're over the hump. It's Thursday. No reaction. Okay. Okay. What's your big story today?
Well, yung pag-uusapan natin yan. Finally, there's EUA for Pfizer
Finally.
in the
first.
Philippines, and we are still monitoring the contact tracing efforts for this Quezon City resident. Now it's been revealed na taga Kamuning. And an interesting story there, no? Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte had to come out and say that we will not tolerate any discrimination against residents of Kamuning.
There was unwarranted panic,
Nagano
panic in
kaagad
Kamuning.
So one big story and one big message really from government right now, from all agencies, is don't panic. No, parang there is a new variant, it's confirmed, but no need to panic.
Variant pa nga, ang hirap spellingin eh. I mean, what about you? What's the Star's big story for tomorrow? Oh, nakamute ka ata.
Nako.
Okay, baka nakamute si Ami. Luchi, what have you seen? What was the big story that was developing?
Yan pa.
Baka wala kayong load.
lumang style na yan. Hindi. Pero another big story, of course, impeachment sa US.
Yes,
no?
yes.
Donald Trump impeached for the second time, and some Republicans
10
joining in the
Republicans
vote.
jumping ship. Which brings the next question, what will the Senate do? Kasi I think they resume session on the 19th, one day before the inauguration. So what does that mean? I suppose that means that this Congress will not be able to have a trial anymore.
Well, we don't know, but that's still up in the air. That's still up for a legal question. We presume a legal challenge, but hatirin yung mga legal experts sa US, the constitutionalists, whether or not an impeachment that was initiated prior to a president stepping down should be allowed to continue.
But with a different Congress?
That'll
be interesting.
That'll be interesting.
What about you guys? You are ladies. Can we hear you now?
There you
go. There you go. There you go. There you go. Yeah. Sabi na nga, pasarod lang katapat yan eh. Okay, let's start with Ami. Ami, what's your big story?
Sabi ko nga si Pope Francis at si former Pope Benedict, pareho nang nabakunahan din kanina. Ngayon lang.
Okay.
And of course, well, papunta na tayo dyan sa guest natin eh.
Yung Swiss Guards kaya nabakunahan.
Nakaka-10 million na daw yung vaccination sa US. Ayan na segue mo ha.
Okay. Nag-segue na. Sige, let's go first to our first guest for tonight. So for tonight, we bring in first of all ang ating Cabinet Secretary, si Secretary Karlo Nograles, whom we have not seen in quite a while. Secretary Nograles, welcome back. It's been a while.
Yes.
Well, I've always been here waiting for the call.
Nagparamdam ka.
Oo nga naman,
Oo nga.
napapanood natin siya at
Oo.
may interview sa ibang newscast,
Meron
pero
kasing
dito hindi.
meron kasi mga pilyong kolumnista sa Philippine Star, tanong ng tanong eh. Bakit si Karlo Nograles di natin nakikita?
Well, Secretary,
Magandang gabi po sa lahat.
Yes, sir.
Hi, good evening, Ed, Robbie, Lucci, and Ami.
yes, sir. Secretary, we do want to ask you about the vaccines and how we are going to handle the incoming vaccines. But before we go to that, before we talk about what is soon to be coming here, let's talk about what's already here. Yung B117 variant ng, that supposedly came from the United Kingdom. As we know yesterday, nag-positive yung isa who arrived from Dubai, UAE. I suppose the first question on everybody's mind is, what's being done to make sure that this is contained and everybody who is infected is identified? I understand kasi that we have been testing only those arriving sa airport. Is there any plan to expand that beyond that and go random checking into the local populace?
Well, first of all, dun sa pasyente na positive na dun sa UK variant, we have already conducted our close contact tracing and testing of all the close contacts nung pasyente, especially in the airplane. We have already contacted everyone on board that flight, telling everyone to watch out for the symptoms, strict home quarantine, but yung mga close contacts niya dun sa airplane have all been swabbed, and so far wala pa kami nakikitang positive. In fact, yung kasama niyang female companion has been tested negative naman. Be that as it may, nagmeeting kami sa IATF kanina, and tomorrow Secretary Harry Roque will be making the pronouncements and the announcements on what we discussed during the IATF meeting. So abangan na lang natin tomorrow kung ano yung mga announcements at napagkasunduan namin sa IATF. But kasama sa mga i-announce ni Secretary Harry Roque yung mga additional na precautions and protocols that we will be doing, especially for the arriving passengers.
Yes, sir.
So right now, we're doing, and then secondly, we're doing two things right now. No? We're not only swabbing arriving passengers coming from abroad and testing them for genome sequencing, but we're also doing some random genome sequencing also locally.
Okay.
In fact, we got some swabs already from the Visayas and Mindanao. And particularly, we're looking at areas where there is high prevalence of infection ng COVID-19. And we're trying to see if locally meron ba tayong variants, any of the variants that we're on the lookout for, no? Which is basically the UK variant, the South African variant, and the Malaysian variant. So even locally, we're also doing some testing and genome sequencing to find out if it's already here in the Philippines. But syempre, ang ating tinututukan yung mga mula sa abroad.
Yes, sir. Pero sir, baka you can give us a sneak preview of the protocols that
I
you
have
have
to
in mind.
also point out, Ed, no, that UAE was initially not part of the list of
Right.
banned
Yes.
countries, right? But because we have been doing and we've been swabbing passengers from abroad, Filipinos arriving from abroad especially, we were able to detect that. So ibig sabihin, the protocols work because even those from Filipinos coming from banned, both from banned countries, and Filipinos and foreigners coming from those without the travel ban, we've been doing the swabbing and the genome sequencing. So we were able immediately to detect that this passenger coming from UAE, which is not a banned country, na dala-dala niya yung UK variant.
Sir, what is the possibility that the protocols will be stricter on account of this news about the variant being here? Ang takot ng marami ay baka nga bumalik na naman sa MECQ. Is that a remote possibility or...
Ayoko rin naman magsalita ng patapos, no? But I'd also like to point out that the transmission of the variants, inevitably, the transmission of the variants are undoubtedly the same transmission mode as the old original coronavirus COVID disease. No? So it's still the same, it's still droplets. So parang ang message din po natin sa ating mga kababayan is as long as we keep the protocols and adhere to these strictly to these protocols, which is the face mask, tapos dinagdagan pa natin ng face shield, the social distancing and the washing. Kahit na UK variant yan or whatever variant, protected pa rin po tayo. So that's basically a message that we'd like to bring across, no, to sa lahat ng ating mga kababayan.
In the
So
meantime,
malamang hindi.
Secretary,
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
in the meantime, Secretary, naghahanda na yung mga LGUs apart from procuring their own vaccines. Naghahanda na sila for the cold chain requirements para sa pagdating nga ng mga bakuna. Are you coordinating this? Is the national government also coordinating this effort?
Yes,
In
absolutely.
uniform ba yung mga preparation na yun?
Yes, absolutely. So right now, well, there are different brands of the vaccine have different needs for the cold storage, no. Particularly Pfizer, -70 ang kailangan niya, no. Moderna, -20. The others naman pwede naman sa 2 to 8 degrees, no. So those are just refrigerator temperature naman ang 2 to 8 degrees, no. So when it comes to the ultra low temperature storage facilities, meron po tayo niyan sa Metro Manila, sa Metro Cebu at sa Metro Davao. So as far as the Pfizer brand is concerned, it will be easy to roll it out sa Metro Manila, Metro Cebu and Metro Davao. But we don't look at the Pfizer as the particular brand that we can roll out in far-flung areas because nga of the cold storage needs of that vaccine. Sa Moderna, ganun din, although it's -20, we might have some challenges when it comes to transportation and storage under a -20 setup, no? So baka yung Moderna might be more appropriate again for the metropolitan cities. But the rest of the other vaccine brands that we're looking at, kasi 7 naman yan can be rolled out in the far-flung and rural areas. So yes, we're coordinating now with the LGUs. The LGUs themselves have many LGUs have already signified their intent to, in fact, procure their own vaccines. And the preference as AstraZeneca is usually the brand of preference ng karamihan, if not all of the LGUs that have already gone into discussion with AstraZeneca. And then the other more rural areas will be using the other brands as they come along. Pero that being said, ang setup naman namin sa rollout ng vaccines is unahin namin yung mga regions na mataas ang COVID-19 transmission, and we'll start with NCR and then go down to Calabarzon, then Davao and Central Visayas, Region 3, CAR region, and so on and so forth, no? Because a ranking has already been made and agreed upon by the experts and the technical panels in terms of ano yung uunahin ng mga regions down the line. And then also, per region, meron tayong sectoral segmentation of the population also.
Sir, what you specified, that's the ranking already. What you just specified.
Sorry?
What you just specified kanina, that was the ranking already?
NCR
Yeah. That's
going down.
what I can, that's what I can remember. Yung the top ones are those regions. And then I don't remember anymore the rankings sa baba.
Okay. Now,
But if you're
sir-
saying that Pfizer will only be mainly given to metro cities, does this assume that those in the, regions farther away from cities cannot afford to choose something like Pfizer? Kumbaga, they're the ones who can't be choosy. Kumbaga, if we were to borrow the
when you
words
talk
of
about, I think the context of your question, Luchi, is with regard to LGUs acquiring their own vaccines. No, I'd like to clarify that certain brands, certain and particular brands are open to a tripartite agreement, while some brands are not. And according to Secretary Galvez, among the brands that are open to a tripartite agreement with the LGUs and even the private companies is AstraZeneca, Moderna, and Novavax. So these are the three particular brands that are open to a tripartite agreement. All the other brands are not open
Okay,
to a tripartite.
Secretary, it's good that you brought that up, and particularly that this is something that has implications even for the private sector, because there's a proposal in Congress by Deputy Speaker Rufus Rodriguez, I believe, precisely to institutionalize that and then to enable that, particularly to allow the private sector to make their own purchases. What would be the pros and cons of that? On the one hand, I imagine that saves government some money. The 72 billion can be allotted by government for those who can't afford it. On the other hand, what are the implications for, potentially a bidding war and trying to just sort out who exactly has access to which comes first?
I think we have to first clarify that the vaccines that are being used right now globally, no, not just in the Philippines, are all we're all able to access the vaccines by virtue of an emergency use authority. People kasi think na pag-approve ng FDA, they think it's commercially available. So we have to first clarify that because of the nature of this public health emergency worldwide, hindi dadaan sa usual process ng FDA yan. There's a certain specific category wherein we can access these vaccines because nga it's for emergency use and because of the emergency health situation worldwide. So ibig po sabihin, let's disabuse our minds into thinking na pag-approve sa FDA, meaning to say pwedeng ma-purchase commercially, pwedeng ma-market commercially, we can buy it in a drugstore, we can have our doctors have these vaccines. I can go to my doctor and get a shot from the doctor.
O nasa
Kasi
Facebook na.
hindi po to for commercial transactions. This is for emergency use. That being said, all these vaccine and pharmaceutical companies have to apply for an EUA. And necessarily, under the EUA, meron specific conditions yan. Number one, it's not commercially available. It's not for marketing. It's for emergency use. And therefore, necessarily, kailangan involve ang national government dyan. Because it's so new, we have to put setups there. No? Number one, kailangan may vaccine panel ka, expert panel. Number two, mag-FDA ka. And number three, dapat may committee ka who's monitoring any adverse effects following immunization. So therefore, everything has to pass through the national government because all these setups have to be put in place. Kasi hindi yan pwedeng vaccination in a doctor's clinic. It always has to be and has to involve all of these institutions, no, under the national government. So when a private sector wants to acquire their vaccines, like what is happening right now, that is allowed as long as number one, may EUA yung pharma company, and number two, it has to be under a tripartite agreement which necessarily involves the national government. So tripartite kasi private sector, the pharma company, plus the national government. Ganon din yung setup sa LGU. LGU, pharma company, and national government. So among the 7 brands that we have, so far only 3 are open to a tripartite agreement. And that's AstraZeneca, Moderna, and Novavax. So, kailangan maunawaan muna natin na ganun ang setup. Hindi ito commercially available.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Sir,
but at a certain point, regardless of who negotiated for it, and let's say it satisfies all the conditions that you mentioned, ultimately, pagpasok niyan dito, parang imbudo yan. It still goes through the national government as the gatekeeper and also as triage as to, I don't care kung sino umorder nito, but national government still does the triage on who gets it first?
Yes, because of the supply. We have to understand na number one, limited ang supply niyan. So kailangan mapag-usapan natin kung ano yung priority segments of the population and society ang uunahin natin. Otherwise, if we don't put some sort of setup in terms of prioritization, then magkakagulo-gulo yan. Parang if you don't put in the conditions and the kumbaga ang prioritization list, then parang magiging free for all. We cannot afford a free for all precisely because limited ang stock
Yes, sir.
at ang supply.
Sir, do we have already an idea of the pricing involved? Kasi we already have an idea when Sinovac is coming here, but we still don't seem to have any firm grasp of how much it's going to cost us. We've been seeing a lot of figures being tossed around online, may nagsasabing 3.6. Is there any truth to this? Is it 3,600 for the 2 doses?
I think that has already been denied, no, by Secretary Charlie Galvez. No, it's definitely not going to be that expensive. No, in fact, it's cheaper than 2 other brands. That is what Secretary Charlie is saying. Number 2, there's a confidentiality agreement and clause kasi. And that's the reason why Secretary Charlie cannot really divulge in public. But I think he's willing to divulge the price to the senators in executive session, just so as not to violate the confidentiality agreement. And I think the confidentiality agreement is there. I think the purpose of that, and I'm just assuming this, the purpose of that is para hindi magkakaroon ng, I guess, price war
Price
among
war.
vaccines,
Yes, sir.
or something like that.
Yes, sir.
Bababaan and all of that. It's in the entire world there's a race
Yes,
for the
sir.
vaccine.
Hindi ba maganda,
sir, yung
bababaan?
The public will never know the price?
Sir, di ba maganda
Is
yung
that true?
pababaan?
You will. I think the confidentiality agreement, I don't know if it's happening now because negotiations are underway. I don't know if the confidentiality agreement is waived after a deal has been signed, but definitely whatever the cost, at pag nagkapirmahan at nagkabilihan, I'm sure COA will be able to access the cost. Kasi syempre, necessarily makikita mo naman magkano ang bili natin, magkano yung pera na ginamit natin, then magkano ang bili natin. So I think it's in the negotiation stage that the confidentiality agreement, particularly with the price, is most important. But I think when a deal is signed, I guess that becomes public document already.
Okay.
But definitely, COA will be able to look at the price and pag-audit ng COA niyan.
Okay.
Okay. Cabinet Secretary Karlo Nograles, sir, we hope to have you with us more often.
Thank you. Maraming salamat.
New Year's resolution.
Stay safe, everyone. God bless.
Stay safe, sir.
Maraming
Maraming salamat po.
Thank you.
We will just go into a break, so please stay with us.
UK variant of COVID-19 is now in the Philippines. The patient is a 29-year-old male in Quezon City who arrived from Dubai last week.
Despite the presence of the more contagious variant, health experts say there's no need to panic.
More senators are questioning the government's apparent preference for China's Sinovac.
What if the AstraZeneca and Pfizer or Malaya is available, or even when Sinopharm, in Sinopharma? Or what if that is available? Then those will be the burning issues that we will be asking on Friday.
Welcome back, the Chiefs, here on One News. We are now at the final stage of our conversation. Now joining us is Philippine Red Cross Chairman, Senator Richard Gordon. Senator Gordon, Chairman, welcome to the Chiefs.
Good
Hi,
evening, sir.
Robbie.
Evening, sir.
Good evening. Hi, Robbie. Hi, Luigi. Hi, Annie and Ed.
Yes, sir.
Po, kompleto po kami ngayon.
Yes.
Sir, I saw the pictures of you with that saliva test kits. I saw it on the Philippine Star. Tell us a bit more about this. And I have one question. Uubra po ba ito dun sa UK variant o kahit anong variant ng COVID?
Well, we don't know. The point is, we've tested it. The United States has tested it. The Japanese are using it. The Singaporeans have tested it. And they have the same effect. Practically 99% ang ang effectiveness and ang variance 95%. So, as far as I'm concerned, I think it's a good one. There is no invasive procedure na tinutusok ka nung swab sa bibig at saka sa ilong, and it's cheaper. So the more we test, the better for us. And it's going to be cheaper, a lot cheaper.
How much cheaper?
Well, it's going to be 2,000. So if more people go on volume, we can reduce it eventually.
Tama sir, ang sakit nga kasi yung swabbing nagiging soprano na ako pag nag-i-swab ako eh. But anyway, ang sabi kasi ng Food and Drug Administration sir, what is putting the brakes on having this registered is that it is the manufacturer of the test kit that has to apply for registration with the FDA and not necessarily the Red Cross. So how do we go about this po?
Can you see me smiling? I'm smiling because we submitted that since October 17, and they could have said it a lot earlier. And when they said they gave it to us in November 5, I think, they never did. Actually, Dr. Obial, former Secretary of SEDU, never sent it, and they actually sent it on January 5. But we already have that, so there should be no problem. This is based also on PCR, and SaniSure, our manufacturer, says they will be compatible, they will be okay. And as far as I'm concerned, a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, the Food and Drug Administration said if it has authorization, emergency use authorization from the United States, which it did as early as August last year, it should be okay, and they still say it's okay. And so we have submitted, I believe, today yung requirement ng SaniSure that they're going to say that the reagents are the same practically.
Okay, so na-apply na po. Na-apply na po.
Yes. In fact, we've tested it we should be finished with the 1,000, and every test that we do, every 100, if I'm not mistaken, there's a parallel test for the saliva, for the swab test. So we can see. And so far yesterday, I think out of about 600 or 700, there were about 6 positive cases that the saliva test detected.
Senator, if approved, ilan ang kayang ipasok ng Red Cross initially?
You know, I've been telling everybody, underutilized Red Cross because we have over 54 machines that can do 1,000 each. Right now, we're testing 10,000 lang, 9,000 to 10,000. So, since you're using the same machines, I expect kung dadagsa ang tao dyan, dadami ang tao ang magpapatest dahil mura at mas madali. Kahit na i-double mo, kayang-kaya yung 20,000. We can do as much as 50,000 if necessary.
Sir, paano nyo na-determine kung effective? I mean, right now, ang ginagawa nyo ba after the saliva test? Do they undergo also a swab test?
No. We have a PCR. They're tested by PCR. Maganda nito, you have more samples, di ba? Doon sa saliva at sa swabbing, kinakayod yung throat mo hanggat maaari makakuha ng maliit na sample, at saka doon sa ilong kumukuha ng, kumukuha sila ng konting sample. Ito, you have a saliva test, you're not supposed to eat, you're not supposed to brush your teeth or smoke before you take it, 30 minutes before. And you use a straw and put it in a small vial, which I'll show in a while here. Since somebody got it. But anyway, it's in a very, very small vial that we can utilize right away. And almost as big as this, see? Okay. And you stick into that, and we're able to test it right away. And usually, kung nandun ka na sa lab, if you want to wait for it, it can be finished within 3 to 4 hours, and you have the test right away.
Senator, pakiulit lang po, wag magyosi, ano po yung mga
kumain.
No, hindi maganda.
Do not eat.
Ano pa?
Huwag yosi, huwag kakain half an hour before.
Okay.
Saka, do not brush your teeth.
Okay.
Do not be a problem for some of our friends here.
I ask because what are the chances that people will not do it as appropriately as advised? Magpunta sila doon sa testing center, they give their sample, and nobody knows any better na either.
That's a mere half an hour. Tatanungin naman sila, and they have to sign a sheet. No, that they have to sign. What they call the CIF. Pareho ng pinipirmahan nila doon sa usual test na ginagawa natin. This is the vial, actual vial. Can you see it?
Yes,
So
sir.
small. And then you have a straw, the usual straw, kaya lang kalahati, manipis, and then you put it down there. Before you do it, you'll be interviewed, of course. And you know what? There's no need for a PPE for the ones who are giving you the stuff, no? And then after you're tested, you just put it in a box like this, all right? And see it? And then you put vial there. Of course, the vial will already have what they call barcode, and there's the barcode. It will be wrapped in the vial, and then you're off to the races. You can now be tested, and if your test results come out, we'll send it by computer. If you go to Japan when you land, they test you by saliva test. Singapore, also the U.S. And the U.S. the universities use it because actually it's so cheap that many of the students use it once a week. They test it once a week.
Meron
They
din
have
dito,
over a million already, over a million tests done in one university alone.
ang bago ngayon, sir, sa US, yung sa LMA, it's the over-the-counter saliva test na hindi na nga kailangan ng laboratory. Are you also in discussion with that company? It's an Australian company, but it's approved in the US.
No, we're doing this step by step. The reason why we got through here is because there's a Filipina by the name of Diana Ranoa. She's a PhD, molecular laboratory. She's in cancer research in Chicago, and her team helped facilitate the discovery of this test, and it's very, very effective. Yale also has a test, but apparently they have done more testing than Yale University. These are prestigious universities. For that matter, many of the universities are behind many of the testing. For example, the vaccine, AstraZeneca, is covered by Oxford University. So you just have to rely on the academic backgrounds of many of these universities, of many of the people behind the procedures that we're using right now.
But do you see us moving toward tests that are similar to that, yung tipong do-it-yourself eventually?
Well, habang tumatagal ito, Lucille, alam mo naman, habang tumatagal yan, dadali ang test dahil they will be discovering more and more. Technology is moving very, very fast. So that's why I thought we moved very, very slow here. We could have started this in early October or November. And but anyway, it's here already, so we may as well use it. There's not too much na ilalagay in terms of capital. We're even paying for the testing. We've invested 2 million pesos for 1,000 tests. So you can see that I'm not exactly excited, overjoyed about it, but I am overjoyed for the people who are always afraid that they would have to pay more, or for that matter, they would have to have their noses interfered with, as well as their throats.
May utang pa sa inyong gobyerno, di ba, hanggang ngayon?
Well, miraculously, they paid tonight, and they still owe us. They paid. Siguro nabalitaan nila. I was going to be on TV again, and they paid 160 million tonight. So from 700 million, they went down to about 550 million now.
So malaki-laki pa rin yan, ha?
Malaki-laki pa rin.
Actually, sir, in hindsight nga, it does make one wonder why it took us this long to adopt something like this. Kasi from the very start, we all knew that the virus was saliva-driven, droplet-driven, coming from the mouth and the nose. And therefore, I suppose, but this is hindsight nga naman.
Well, in truth, guys, it took President Duterte, in one of his press conferences, he said, sabi ni Gordon, okay raw yung saliva test, at ako nasasaktan ako pag sa ilong at saka sa bibig, gagamitin natin yan. At that time they were saying, we sent you didn't act, but actually they never sent us. And when we got it done, the moment the president said that, you can see how bureaucracy works in this country. Right away, they were calling us. They kept following up. Okay lang nalalabas yun. Sabi ko, my orders are, we do not test unless it is approved by the Department of Health. And tumagal yan doon sa tinatawag nating Health Technology Center na pinag-aaral lahat yung mga bagong test. No? Doon tumagal, and I guess they're being careful. And if I'm going to be frank, RITM was also doing a test on this. They were doing the Yale test. I guess nauna lang kami, and we're ready. And I don't mind if they use the yield test, if they use even the UP supported us here, no less than President Concepcion signed it. I signed it. With a non-disclosure agreement. Dr. Michael T. was fantastic. He helped us here. Dr. Pao Obial and many other scientists from UP. See, that's what the health technology assessment group. They're composed of not just doctors. The important part about it is that they have scientists, and that's why they're very careful. I've always believed that even if you're in a hurry, you must, if you have to make haste, as Napoleon said, make haste slowly.
But sir, I'm wondering long term, beyond COVID, what are we learning with our processes and protocols? That what do you think can we improve on? What are we learning from this experience with COVID? Say when it comes to these clearances, the FDA, the protocols, and so on.
Well, we have to fund our ITM. That's our CDC. When our ITM can only test manually, mauunahan talaga ng Red Cross yan because we got the machines that are automated. And obviously, we move faster because we are a private international organization. No? And we've already done over 1.7 million tests as of today. No? Almost 1.7 million tests. And the second to us is about have done about 515,000. We have done 1.678 million tests. So we need to beef up our ITM. We need to beef up DOH. We need to beef up DOST, and we need to move up our research and development in our universities, particularly UP and all the others countries. We are so slow in terms of R&D. Every year in the Senate, I stand up and say we have to add more R&D, not only in our medicine, not only in our businesses, not only in our military, because that's important. Technology and knowledge is important. You have to marry the science with the practical things that you need to do. Now, for an example, I think when you get into the actual vaccination, I think there will be more improvements coming up. So I'm crossing my fingers that it will become easier. But you have a problem here that's a moving target. It mutates very, very fast. So the new variants from UK and from Saudi Arabia, they're very strong in the sense that they infect very fast, but they don't kill very fast. So it debilitates. Debilitation is bad already because our economy is suffering, and that is why even in the Senate, I'm suggesting. I was the last one to, almost the last one to speak, quite frankly, last time, and I said, hey, everybody's talking about this and that. I think if we test, we must test our workers primarily, our bus drivers, our everybody that's involved in moving the economy, and the senior citizens can still stay and be safe at home, but the people like the frontliners, doctors, everybody that is involved with the attack on the COVID, as well as the workers, well, we need to get them going so that our tax revenue goes up, our production goes up, and we can go back into business again.
Yes,
Sir, since you've mentioned the Senate probe, sabi ni Presidente, naiinis siya dyan sa probe na yan. Sabi niya, wala naman daw makukuha dyan na in aid of legislation. What exactly ba? What pieces of legislation are you thinking of coming up with? You're going to summon the pharmaceutical companies, not a probe of what's happening. Pero by way of legislation, ano kaya ang pwedeng lumabas dyan?
Well, I was the one who introduced the All Senators Caucus. In fact, I'm always incredulous. Why there are committees like Bongo holds the Health Committee, di ba? He should be the one doing the probe, no? If there is shenanigans, it should be blue ribbon, and I'm not asking for it. No? As far as I'm concerned, we must focus on fixing the problem before us. It's unfair for the president naman to say that walang mangyayari. May nangyayari naman sa mga investigations, and obviously this is a prerogative of a co-equal branch of government. You cannot shackle the Congress from investigating unless you fall short, unless you collide with the theory that there's a national interest concern, and even in that case, we can do what we call executive sessions. But I think, siyempre, siguro marami ng tao napupuno na nakakulong sila, cabin fever, and a lot of pressure on government to show something. Actually, maswerte tayo. I never use the word swerte, no? Because I think we must use our skill talent, skill and talent, no? Because when you compare us with other countries, our death rate is not that big. And I'm thankful to God for that, no? But upon the other hand, it's not an excuse for us not to improve ourselves. So when there are people fooling around, and I know there are people fooling around, overpricing on PPEs, overpricing on other things, hindi maalis eh. Habit na yan eh. There, the general rule is the government official usually is honest until somebody from business, some guy comes in and says, "Oh, meron ka rito, bigay mo sa akin yan." And that's where the corruption starts.
Yes.
Speaking of which, Senator, kanina kausap namin Cabinet Secretary Karlo Nograles, and we were asking precisely about, transparency in the prices of these candidate vaccines. For the China vaccines in particular, we see many reports. It's all over the place. We don't know how much exactly. And he said something along the lines na, look, maybe the confidentiality agreement, it covers the negotiations at this point. But later on, after the fact, COA will have access to all of this anyway at magkakaalaman din naman. Is that satisfactory enough?
No, to my mind, I'm not after any shenanigans muna. I've spoken to a couple of these drug companies because I'm trying to get the vaccine myself, and if I don't get it...
Oh, that's what I was going to ask you. Are you going to go to the vaccines
well, a lot of
trade
people,
also?
I'm under pressure from a lot of friends. You have to go get the vaccine. Please help us because we're not sure whether other people are doing their work. And I said that I'm sure they're doing their work because their families could be affected. But the point is, the companies that we're talking about are major companies, and there are no angels in the drug industry. Some of them have gone into crisis in terms of corruption. Not all of them, but quite a few of them, including Sanofi, and they have been fined in other countries. But the point here, is ang dito, I think meron konting konsensya because they're talking about no profit, no loss. Ibig sabihin, hindi naman kayo magpa-profit dyan, pero ayaw rin naman na matalo. And then common sense. A company will invest a lot of money on research. They will throw everything, including the baby at the back, towards inventing the first one, because there's a lot of money if you invent that. It's just like getting a formula to make hair grow back again. And if they do that, they will invest a lot of money, or for that matter, cancer. And there's even some talk about that. But anyway, here, you can expect that they don't want... I have to sign a non-disclosure agreement with one company, because certainly they don't want their formula to be discovered by others.
Yes,
so intellectual property yan. And at the same time, they don't want to be talking to everybody. In fact, I stick out like a sore thumb because I'm not government, but we are a humanitarian organization that has had, I would say, a very humbling experience in terms of participating in this effort. But it's recognized throughout the movement, and they're talking to us because of that. But still, they would like somebody who can guarantee payment. And if you have too many people coming in and say, we'll pay, then it might come up to a political thing that they give to their friends first before they give to the masses. And the idea is, especially for AstraZeneca, and I can say this in praise of AstraZeneca, because Oxford is behind them. They're saying, we want, and the ambassador of Great Britain has told me himself, they don't want to make a profit out of here. We don't want to profit from the misery of mankind.
Yes, sir. But, sir, not disclosing the formula is one thing. What about not disclosing the price? Even if it's not just yet, should we, by this time, already be made aware of the price, even during negotiations? Or should we wait until negotiations are done?
Well, we cannot negotiate without the price.
I mean, the public. I'm talking about the public.
So I know that AstraZeneca costs 610. I know that China is much more expensive than, it's even more expensive than Pfizer, if I'm not mistaken, or this other one, the Moderna.
Yes, sir.
And as you get many more involved in this, the price will become cheaper.
Yes, sir.
Kaya lang nagmamadali tayo because all governments are under pressure.
Kasi, sir,
Dying is so
But it
commonplace.
seems to us, sir, that the published rates are different from the nego rates. Parang may ganun eh.
They will be
Kasi
taking
yung
an awful
published rates,
chance.
as we know them, ngayon, sinasabi ni Galvez, mura daw yung Sinovac. No?
Sinovac.
Eh, hindi naman yun yung published rate. So,
I- you know,
parang
I-
magkaiba eh.
from the time that I have met Secretary Galvez, I know him to be a man of integrity. I mean, so far. Soft-spoken, works hard, works all hours of the day and night, including sila Vince Dizon. And I can tell you this, that it's going to be very hard for them to say, mura, and then it turns out there's an overprice. Ang concern ng Pilipino more is, sino ba ang nagbebenta dyan? Because merong nagtutulak na isang bansa. At nagagalit yung mga tao na itinutulak sa atin yan. I'll be frank, they're afraid of China. Senator Subiri doesn't want to be tested, doesn't want to be vaccinated by any of these medicines coming from China. I too would have second thoughts. In fact, ang sinasabi ko sa pamilya ko, tingnan nyo muna because initially baka matakot kayo because right now there will always be side effects. There will always be side effects. And right now there are side effects for Pfizer, side effects for other medications. So the idea is calm the population down, focus on the problem, and if we find that they have done foolishness, then we go after them. That is where the problem of this country has always been, and you guys all know it. The enforcement of the law, the axe falling down on those who have fooled around, that hardly happens.
Yeah.
And that's where our problem is as a country.
Sir, this whole matter of being choosy can also be framed as a real public health question and a behavioral question. The lack of confidence, and the surveys bear this out, no? Mababa yung confidence ng mga Pilipino, particularly with Chinese-made vaccines. There have been two schools of thought from the officials we've talked to over the past 2 weeks. One says, ayun nga, parang, well, wag tayong mamili kasi it's the burden for government is to educate the public and to reassure them. That's one school of thought. And the other school of thought is coming from LGUs, many LGUs saying na, hindi, we cannot ignore the real perception and feelings of our constituents kasi baka umorder tayo tapos hindi rin nila tatanggapin and we can't force them anyway. Where would you stand on that debate?
Well, I would look at the most effective, the most economical. I'm looking at AstraZeneca the same way the mayors are. It's relatively less expensive. It's backed up by a major university in the world that is recognized for intellectual integrity. It's also
The problem is supply. The problem is supply. I mean, we don't know whether they'll be able to supply us.
I don't think that'll be a problem because one of the biggest suppliers in the world with manpower is India. Many of the vaccines are going to be manufactured either by China or India or other countries. Maybe we can do it here as well if we are aggressive enough. No, in fact, I support that. But unfortunately, we're not. So sa akin, yes, go ahead, Ami.
Senator, mukhang determined na gobyerno natin sa Sinovac eh. Even without the UAE, mukhang tuloy na yan. And sabi nila, sa mga maraming lugar na talagang walang makakarating na vaccine except Sinovac. You think, kasi sa ibang bansa, nakikita natin to overcome vaccine hesitancy. There's a lot of vaccine hesitancy. Actually, there's a lot of hesitancy
even without this
ng made in China. No, I mean, let's be frank about it. Ngayon, you think, dahil sinabi ni Presidente kagabi, sila daw sa mga kabinet magpapahuli na lang sila, mauuna na daw mga tao. This is in contrast to what's happening in other countries na yung mga presidente na una. You think it should also be done in the Philippines na kahit man lang yung cabinet, sige, wag na si Presidente, kahit cabinet members, you think dapat may mauna sa kanila? Just to set an example, if they want to really use the Sinovac.
Sabi mo na, Ami, kung sino gusto mo mauna.
Again,
Kahit sino sa cabinet, di ba? Hindi, si Presidente pwede na sabihin, delikado ako, meron siya mga comorbidity
Yun nga.
Sakit na aminado siya, di ba, na meron siya.
Quite frankly, there's nothing wrong with presidents having their vaccination ahead. Netanyahu had his.
Yes.
Biden had this.
We don't know.
Joko, we don't know Sinovac pa eh.
Yeah. I don't mind if the president has said this day. All they have to do is be transparent. Kaya nga sabi ko, baka magalit na lang sa akin kayo, Presidente, the PSG took a bullet because I think meron na mga kasama tayo na tumanggap na cabinet member, maybe even in the Senate and in the lower house. Sabi lang nila,
nabalitaan na namin, sir.
Diba? Sa akin, baliwala sa, it's not an issue. It's not an issue. Because kung nauna sila, ang ayoko lang doon, kung nagpa-test kayo, dapat malaman natin ano ang naging reaction. Meron bang hinimatay? Meron bang nangisay?
Yun nga eh,
Meron
walang
bang namatay?
nagsishare
Walang umaamin eh.
Dapat may nagsishare ng experience.
Yes.
Diba? Walang umaga yun
ng
eh.
tao, di ba?
Saka kailangan
Yes.
yun eh. Kailangan yun eh. Kung hindi, delikado talaga itulak yan sa madla.
Yes,
Because
sir.
kung may ganyan, at least sabihin nyo, magkakaroon ng allergic reaction, alam natin kung ano sasabihin natin. I don't think naman China will push it without testing it. But of course,
Yes.
especially with the onus of the spread of the vaccine, nagmamadali sila para masabi nila kami rin ang gumawa. And that it will add prestige to China that wants to be number one in the world. That cannot be denied.
Yes, sir.
They're making a move for superiority in the world. And unfortunately, kung ganon, in fact, even in COVID, there were some people na nagbibigay sa akin ng COVID medicine made in China and they swear by a stack of Bibles that it works. But I never use it. I never use it.
Delikado yan, sir. Sir, pero sir,
I mean,
moving forward, sir,
FDA is
yes, sir.
FDA is the one that should tell us whether to use it or not.
Yes, sir. Sir, now moving forward, everybody is working with the idea that after mabakunahan si Pedro at 70% ng populasyon, tapos na ang problema. But the fact of the matter is that most coronaviruses, the vaccines, you have to take the vaccines every year or every 6 months. We don't even know how long
6 months
the,
nga raw
the
eh.
effectivity
Well,
of this
I take
vaccine
flu
is.
shots every year.
Oh, there you go po, which is a
I
coronavirus.
take pneumonia shots every year.
That's a strain of the coronavirus.
This should be the case.
Yes,
This
sir.
should be the case. That's why it's going to go down in price, and many more people in the world starts manufacturing it.
Kaya nga po,
I'm not panicking here.
Yes, sir.
Let me assure the public here. I've
Yes,
been
sir.
through many crises in life involving other people's lives. I'm not panicking here. I just want to be sure we provide the confidence that is necessary for the whole world, and we provide a sense of urgency. This is not I'm better than you, or I will go first because I'm in power, or because I want to make money. Basta sabihin natin, eto, we need to do this and stand by what we say because everybody who's going to push it has got to be the leader. And that's why I favor, mauna ka, patingnan natin. Ako, ang sabi ko, mauna na kayo, titingnan ko kung ano reaction because as you go along, you'll be able to learn more with the reactive scenarios that are going to occur. If there are any deaths, you'll find out. And you can see, my appeal to the world, and I am very, very sure about that, and I hope you'll tell the whole world about this, is let us not listen to the propaganda. There's a new Cold War. There's a propaganda against Pfizer. There's a propaganda against China. And let the FDA decide for ourselves without any influence from somebody who's not a doctor, not a scientist. Let our scientists decide.
Yes, sir. Sir, I just want to squeeze in this question. Along those lines, this is going to be a recurrent issue. Does government have the right frame of mind in preparing for the next year and the years after? In other words, this is not going to be a one-time thing. We are going to have the same problem next year and so on down the line. Are we getting ready for that?
That's a very good point, and we must be ready for that. But remember also this: we're entering an election year.
There you go.
So may nagmamadali, at may mga nangaharang para mahirapan sila. In fact, Trump got it in the neck because actually, Trump deserves a lot of credit because he funded many of the drug companies with warp speed. Unfortunately, naisahan siya, hindi nilabas right before the election, although he announced it that it was ready. I think there was some politics involved there. But even here, there will always be politics, and that is why the media, you folks, have to get the creme de la creme of your thinking and not be part of the canal or the mob or the stampede to get ratings or to get brownie points, but to make sure that the people have informed choice. In vaccination, people have got to have informed choice. That's what happened in the first casualty in Dengvaxia. There was no informed choice, and a child died in Bataan because of that.
Okay.
Ang Johnson daw, long-term immunity, yung Johnson & Johnson product.
As in
Sinabi
permanent?
nila ngayon, long-term immunity sila.
That's correct. That's correct. I don't think you'll have it. And there are some people who are saying that itong ginawa na mga vaccine could be a vaccine later on for cancer. I hope so. But again, we're still doing polio right now. By the way, the Red Cross has vaccinated 1 million for polio and measles together. So kahit tayo wala kami nung gamot, we will vaccinate. We will help the country by vaccinating.
Okay. Red Cross Chairman Senator Richard Gordon, sir, maraming salamat again for joining us tonight.
Thank
Salamat
you,
po.
sir.
Thank you.
I always enjoy being with you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Martin, sir.
Wala nang tanong kung nakapagbakuna na si Senator.
Ingat, tinanggihan nga.
Hindi na
Hindi na.
I'm just making sure.
Wala pang approve dito eh.
Well, that'll be all for this Thursday edition of The Chiefs. We hope what was discussed here will keep the conversation going. I'm Ed Lingao.
I'm Ami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star.
I'm Lucy Cruz Valdez of News 5.
I'm Robbie Alampay, and we are One News.